Hi, this is Lisa, and it's just before 5:30 in the morning, and which is a strange time to be coming on and making a video. But the reason I'm up so early, I'm always up early, but a little bit earlier than normal, is because I've had a dream that I haven't had for ages, a nightmare about my past, about my ex, that I was being locked in the attic. And things and managed to get away, the usual. And obviously I woke up with my heart racing, and I haven't had one of them dreams for ages. So I was laying in bed just thinking about everything I want to do to help other ladies and other women, and just going over in my mind about what can we do to prevent people getting into relationships, abusive relationships that sort of kill them off inside, and also how we prevent women going back into an abusive relationship or into another abusive relationship. And I think so much of it, from what I see, I mean, don't get me, there's some such great, before I go on, there's some such wonderful, brilliant charities out there. Like I wouldn't be where I am today without Women's Aid. And there's so many charities doing such great work in the domestic abuse field. There really is, it's becoming more visible. But the trouble is, with it becoming more visible, it also becomes more normalised. And we've got to work on what makes us, like myself, when I was intelligent, sort of capable young woman, really good prospects in life. What made me accept the behaviour of this abusive relationship? And I think it's become even more normal now. Like, why do we not think enough of ourselves to put a stop to any sort of undesirable behaviour before it escalates to the point where we feel stuck and trapped? So much work I think needs to be done in the preventative measures, in the talking about what is acceptable relationships, like what is love, because it's become so skewed, over the years, over the decades, what people think is acceptable. I mean, where do we get this low self-worth that when we meet somebody that treats us in an abusive way, we sort of see that as love? That where we're in a relationship and somebody starts treating us like undesirable, we have these niggling feelings. And how comes we got this such low confidence in ourselves, in trust in ourselves, in our intuition, into our feelings and thoughts, that we just brush them aside? Because that's certainly what I did. Like, where did that come from? And I think that's where we sort of start to need to look into, like, from a preventative measure, like, what is it in our thoughts, belief systems, our makeup, or our upbringings, everything about what leads us to the point where we think an abusive relationship is acceptable, where abusive behaviour is acceptable. Now, we all know, without being too graphic, a punch and that is unacceptable, but it's these put downs, it's this, the emotional control, the coercive control, the gaslighting, where we all get these niggles at the beginning of these relationships where we know something isn't quite right. But what makes us so needy for love that we then put up with those things, gloss over them, and then we end up glossing over them so much they become normal? So then we question whether we should have, whether we should have questioned them in the first place. It's just normal behaviour. We see it played out in so many relationships. Like, what drives us? What is it in us, or what is lacking in us, that starts the process of us accepting anything other than love, respect, value, support, and care? When somebody doesn't treat us well, you sort of know, but so many of us just go past it because we think we love them, or they love us, or we're so desperate for love, or so desperate for a family, or so desperate to keep our families together because we don't think we can cope on ourselves. where do we get those initial feelings from that makes us accept this behaviour in the first place? And then on the other aspect, I just want to sort of, which is where I'm working. I also want to work in the preventative stuff, but where I'm starting to do work in is like when we do leave, and the lasting effects of domestic abuse. And I don't mean just those people that, you know, unfortunately have had it to the extent like I did, where we ended up in a women's refuge, because in a way we're the ones there that get the support, workers at the refuge, that get the help with housing. But what about those people that have put up with abuse for years and years and years, or however long, months, it doesn't matter how long, but for a time, and have managed to get out of the home, tried to make a new life for themselves without any support because they've not gone to the extremes of police and refuges. I think they have to then just get on with life and just move on with life, but they've got no support in getting over those lasting effects of domestic abuse, which I've already done a video for. And this is what my life coaching is based on, because, you know, like I'm 14 years down the line and I've just had a bloody nightmare that's left me feeling as if I've bloody gone through it yesterday. You know, the effects run deep, as I've said in my previous videos, and we need to do work on self-confidence, self-worth, self-esteem, you know, from the preventative end as well. And this is what I'm working on the other side, on the lasting effects, you know, with people that have experienced emotional abuse, coercive control and physical abuse. You know, I'm not, you know, that's awful. Everything's awful. But what I'm saying is it's those... when you're in an abusive relationship, the relationship you have with yourself gets worn down, really, it gets killed off, and it was severely damaged. And you start, once you leave, you sort of feel that you should be okay, but you know that you're not. You know there's something holding you back. You know there's, you know, in new situations when you're feeling vulnerable, you retreat into your shell, or you feel ashamed and dirty of your past, or, you know, like you're not as far forward in your life as possibly you feel you should be, because you've had to start your life again. You know, you've got your children with you, you're a single parent, and things, and we need to work on people's relationships with themselves, what they think is acceptable behaviour, because the more you learn to treat yourself with love and respect, the more you learn to value yourself, and increase your self-worth and self-esteem, the less likely you are to accept abusive behaviour. And that's, I think, where some of the work needs to be done, building people's self-esteem and self-confidence from school age, you know, teaching them what is acceptable in a relationship, what true love is. You know, yet true love is seen as boring in many cases. It's all these ups and downs of a volatile and toxic relationship that seems, you know, full of lust and, you know, adrenaline and stuff. That's seen as, it's dramatised, and it's seen as romantic and, you know, and love and lust filled. We need to work on building people's self-esteem, self-worth, self-confidence, teaching them what is acceptable behaviour in a normal, loving relationship, teaching them what is possible in a normal, loving relationship. And that's how we can start to prevent people getting involved in abusive relationships, because the standards they have for themselves are high. And that's how we can prevent people from returning to a abusive relationship, or getting involved in another abusive relationship. So I think a lot of work needs to be done, and if you're in this position, a lot of work needs to be done on your relationship with yourself, on your self-esteem, on your feelings of self-worth and self-confidence. You know, learn to love yourself, to treat yourself with respect, value yourself, appreciation, and love. Self-love is such a hard thing for people to seem to be able to do. Why? And that's what I want to help with. And that's, guys, where we tackle preventing domestic abuse and reducing the likelihood of people returning to abusive relationships after leaving, after making that fantastic decision to leave. Thanks for listening, guys.